Disclaimer. This is not a hate video! Whew. That saved the analysis. The Fangan I'm going to talk about is still in its early stages of production, and a lot of things I may bring up in this video will be resolved in the future. I am making this a testament to my personal experiences with the series. While I'm aware the consensus is naturally positive, I have overheard some faces complain about its quality. I am highlighting those issues not out of spite, but to show signs of improvement. If you have any problems with this review, I ask you leave, for I do not wish to stoke any drama from pure opinion. Also spoilers, heavy spoilers for this series, and a couple other Fangans I will be referencing. With that, enjoy the video. Tetro Danganronpa Pink. The most recent craze in the Danganronpa community. If you haven't heard of it, allow me to inform you it is the most creative, engaging, and impactful series to come from the Fangan community. For those who do not know what Danganronpa is, if so, why did you click on this video, you uncultured swine? It is a popular visual novel involving a set group of students called Ultimates, who are forced to kill one another to escape their school confinements. After every death, you must identify the culprit in a trial, or perish with your classmates trying. This series is known for its diverse community, as many people craft their own students, narratives, and killing games. Tetro Danganronpa Pink is no different. Upon first reaction, it masters almost every box in what makes a good Danganronpa series. The concept is fresh, the presentation is astounding, and there is nothing quite like hearing your favorite character scream in agony and despair every bleeding second. While a failure visually, it is made up for in audio. From tight sound effects to outstanding performance from the voice actors, there is no better series to kick back and listen into while working your life away. Stop defending him! Oops. This series exploded in popularity for its unique method of delivering a Fangan many thought impossible before. It was so impactful even I got addicted. 5 months ago, I posted on my channel's community page an upcoming livestream to binge this series. What my fans didn't know is I always take a peek into what I do before streaming. So much so, I gave up on sharing it to my fans, hooked up my speakers, and binged. Little did I expect that the series I subjected myself to would become my biggest disappointment. From predictable death to convoluted plotlines to uninteresting cases mid-character arcs, I had uncovered a very convoluted series. For every amazing thing this series delivers, it has an even greater problem that brings everything crashing down. As a Fangan creator who has made 4 different series, I have recognized these constraints and plan to reveal them to the community. Tetro Danganronpa Pink is an outstanding series covered by mistakes and predictability. I plan to cover every aspect from my lens, not to shame the series, but to show signs of improvements. I will highlight the good and how it enhances the bad. This series will show you why you should never follow the Danganronpa formula too closely. This is how following the Danganronpa formula ruined Tetro Danganronpa Pink. Yeah, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like someone decided to stick around. I was expecting all supporters of this series to take their leave. But as an exception, I shall grant the viewer what you stuck around for. Before we can unveil this series' many trifles, I must share with you the premise of the series. The series follows a unique setup compared to normal Danganronpa. Instead of entrapping students after an apocalypse, it's a secretly run organization of scientists pulling ultimate students together and wiping their memories. The students in question are as follows: Isuno, an internet idol; Harada, zoologist; Chiba, child star; Kamimura, crime scene cleaner; Maya, bounty hunter; Wada, voice actor; Sasaki, a student president; Ojima, a children's book illustrator; Okazaki, a mask maker; Hama, a demonologist; Suno, a superhero; Hiroaki, a fashion designer; Tamba, a gymnast; Hasegawa, a game show champion; Watari, a fire dancer; and Yanagi, an ice dancer. I got that first try. Let's go! Awakening in the school, they meet Monomoko, this series' mascot and the source of all their torment. She will be the one to subject the students to endless motives that threaten their lives. These change throughout the series and take very unique forms, such as minigames, an endless cold, or a gas-based adrenaline rush. Every time the students come up with a means to escape or work together, she is there to hold them back and encourage murders. While this short concept is simple on paper, the amount of layers that perfect it are very enjoyable. This is what the series focuses on the most: characters, their plans, and how they break. The main trilogy, while touches on it, only harnesses the perspective of one character. Here, it diversifies and shows us everyone's perspective to help us grow attachment to them. I enjoy this means of advancing the story because it gives realism to the characters, something Fangans always seem to exclude. And as the series progresses, we come to learn just how desperate some of these characters are to escape. And boy, are they broken into constantly. This series masters drama. I always get hyped to the point I'm bouncing around my bed whenever somebody even raises their voice. But all this collective drama needs to lead into something big, and that is where the murders come in. Throughout the chapters, we get 6 victims and 5 culprits, a simple and common alignment. While the cases are bland, some have very grand concepts, and unfortunately, these are, in my opinion, the worst parts about this series. One of the big moments of a Danganronpa series is its trials. Unfortunately, this series fails to deliver many big selling points to the concept it creates. Its solution is simplicity, one I respect. Keeping the cases super short and explainable answers many questions that would be imposed otherwise. But this is our big issue. You see, all the good things I mentioned moments ago come from these trials. The main aspect of a Danganronpa series, the cases, are not followed through. The deaths and outcomes are shaped purely by the preceding trials, and when they aren't entertaining or empowering, that future plot loses impact. That is the case for almost any Fangan, because it eliminates mysteries and expands the story. But why don't they work here? There are numerous factors that go into shaping these murders, and they affect everything, from the daily lives, to the character development, to the outside story. For the next few segments, we will work through on breaking them down and how they affect the story in the long run. So, with the premise out of the way, let's move ahead to its death order and how it shapes the series. When it comes to Danganronpa, the death order is always the selling point of a series. Fans adore guessing who will die next and the overall mystery behind it, but enjoyment is a huge factor in it. If the death is not surprising or engaging, they might lose interest in the consistency. The main trilogy has suffered itself with being predictable for its repetition and ideas. So much so, it becomes a part of the natural formula for Fangans as well. This includes Tetro Danganronpa, which follows that formula by its hips. For this segment, I will be spoiling the death order in its entirety. I will analyze every death from chapter 1 to 4 for its person killed, purpose in the narrative, reason for death, and impact for the future. Chapter 1 Victim: Isuno. When you first look at Isuno, you don't get the feeling she will be the first victim. She has many qualities and character moments that keep the viewer guessing. But as an experienced Fangan creator, I have taught myself to notice trends in characters, and Isuno has one big issue. If you envision her in any future chapter, she becomes a useless outlier. Fangans have a tendency to kill characters who do not work in the chapter they come to set up. While chapter 1 normally saves itself for bigger hitters, it's a trend common enough that other Fangans follow. Seeing how worthless she could become is why she became my primary suspect as the first victim. Therefore, she died in the only place fit for her. Chapter 1 Killer: Hitomi. Chapter 1 killers are commonly said to be impactful. Hitomi provides just that. She guides the students and collectively unites their ideas, but also bonds heavily with specific cast members to show she is more than a leader. This is what cements her as the only worthy culprit of this chapter. If not for her death, the group will remain united. Even if manipulative, she is the only one who keeps them fighting. It makes her eventual reveal strong and sediments the fears that the students need to watch out for without someone to guide them. I realize you can make a serious comparison to a certain other chapter 1 culprit, but what Eva beats in engagement to the story, Hitomi destroys in emotion. Her death is a perfect narrative fit. Chapter 2 Victim: Chiba. Chiba is predictable strictly because it is a common formula. Danganronpa often kills off its shortest characters early into the game, and Fangan creators have grasped Chapter 2 as the best position for this. That, and the endless barrage of hints this chapter provided, from her persistence to climb the vent, to her gradual increase in comprehension of her situation in the interview and middle school days video, absolutely settled in her fate. Killing off the humor is normal for the middle chapters, and when a character like Chiba fits the bill, she becomes a predictable but perfect fit. Chapter 2 Killer: Harada. With Chapter 2 killers, it is primed to make them either extremely sympathetic or cold stoned. That sympathetic light is what they put Harada under. He falls into a similar situation as Isuno, where you cannot see him living long, and his gimmick with Sawa is too obvious not to be abused. This makes him the best possible Chapter 2 culprit, because other characters would not deliver the same impact he creates for future characters. Chapter 3 First Victim. Kamimura. Every twist and turn, he always becomes an integral voice of reason on the matter, even if his interactions with students are minimal. This was an arc I expected to see him grow out of, and Background Chatter did that phenomenally, but it was the opposite of what I had expected that made me predict his death. Chapter 3 never fully focuses on Kamimura. I don't support this decision as it makes Kamimura a tool only to encourage Hasegawa's plot. I understand they ran dry with content for him due to pushing him hard in the first and second chapter, but this goes to show why it's important to spread out character development. And because this chapter doesn't focus on him, he becomes exactly like a majority of other Chapter 3 victims. Worthless. This makes him a death unavoidable. Chapter 3 Second Victim, Suno. Suno is the opposite of what Kamimura was. Instead of being sidelined, she is the front line. From Wada's malnutrition to Mai's pressured burnout to endless lists of patients pushes her to her edge. The harsh part about this plot is that you cannot see her desperation improving because she rejects all advice brought to her. While part of me saw her snapping and accidentally becoming a culprit, this was the line that made me believe she would become a victim.
The more I think about it, the more I think I might be next, you know? If someone wanted to get out of here and they were looking for an easy target to take out, I think I'm probably gonna die soon.
Is it overly obvious? Yes, but Fangans often mean it when they reveal details like this. If she kept this secret to herself, I would have 100% believed her to die elsewhere, but it is done with meaning. Therefore, I believe she died to deliver a message, a strong one that shapes the core of the series to come. Chapter 3 Killer, Okazaki. Now then, for all the Hasegawa fans, let's take a quick pop quiz. Name a Dangan character who severely helped the Chapter 2 class trial, only to become the Chapter 3 killer. If you said any of these three, you are right. Wait, 3? It seems we have a trope. And poor Okazaki falls right into it. That is not the only reason I deem her obvious. She fits the description and theme of a Chapter 3 killer naturally. This is the only position in her death order she properly fits in, and it makes sense to narratively encourage the story. I am not lying when I say she has the most impactful death, because she continues to make the characters fear her even after the chapter. Being the Chapter 3 killer was her only option for death, but boy does it pay off. Chapter 4 Victim, Watari. My machine has detected an accurate position in the death order? Let's take a look. Traumatic tension, deep control in the killing game, secret personality change, mental pressure, and a deep involving character arc. This isn't a Chapter 4 victim. This is Survivor material. Watari is the first character on this list who I absolutely disagree with her position in the death order. Watari was scarred in Chapter 3 and was recovering from a high amount of control as student council leader. After losing one of her closest friends, she hides her emotions and has failed to be recognized for honoring those lost, to a point where it breaks her, and I believe we should have seen this through. I have made characters who have gone through exactly this, and I love seeing redemption come from a place of pure misery. I will point out that even though I think she should have lived, I cannot deny that the surviving group has more power over her. All those characters have better written struggles and arcs that tower compared to Watari, and that is why I believe she was chosen for this chapter's victim. And if she did get farther, this case wouldn't work because her being the victim is necessary. For this case, I believe there was a much better position for her character to go in, and I'm sad this arc was never properly concluded. Chapter 4 Killer, Hama. Despite being a trope we've seen over and over with big characters, he simply works. Hama's entire purpose for living this long was for Chiba and Harada, and as things got worse, that goal became blindsided for the sake of others. It's a comedic twist to his fate where he couldn't save anyone, but neither did he outright cause the crime. For me, he is the best killer because of this single fact, and that strength for failed redemption is what makes his death so sweet, but unfortunately, easy to see coming. Regardless, it is in my opinion, the best death in the series and an even better spot to kill him. With that, we have revealed all the people who have died from chapter 1 to 4. Looking at the list, we only have one outlier in Watery, but otherwise, this series follows the Danganronpa formula perfectly. And that is why it's not interesting. I made sure to highlight the twists in the character's death in my analysis because they are what cloud the bigger picture. Everyone is identical to a trope used before in the main trilogy, and among the bigger fan base. From impactful chapter 1s, to heartbreaking chapter 2s, to convoluted chapter 3s, and inspirational chapter 4s, everything is stuff that has already happened in the main series. Many Fangans use the main formula from the trilogy because of how effective it is. But when you make a Fangan, people want twists, creative ideas, and an unexpected death order. When you make a series this close to the original, it loses its spark. I have experimented with the formula in my own series, changed up the ideas, and intentionally gotten characters killed to experiment with the plot. I know most creators don't want to test ideas in the middle of what could be their only series, but taking risks create a bigger interest to something small. And thankfully, that is what Tetro Danganronpa's chapter 5 masters, grasping a unique concept and ensuring the audience goes out with a bang. Unfortunately, the one time they went for a unique idea, it crumbled. This was who I thought was going to survive. It may look bleak, but let me explain my reasoning. With the original trilogy, the surviving characters have always been a mixed bag. Danganronpa 1 and 2 are very split with who they pick as their survivors, more thriving off of entertainment than reason. But then you get to Danganronpa 3, which in my opinion has the best surviving group. Maki tested her morals and lost her passion and friends, Himiko was abused and mentally manipulated to losing her friends, and Shuichi lost all hope and had to learn to recover despite failing so many people. This trio is what I believe should make up a surviving cast. Lost characters who redeem themselves. I was highly confident this series would do the same. The reason chapter 3 and 4 pushed the cast and got rid of irrelevant characters, besides her, was to encourage this development. But these 5, in my opinion, had it the most. Hiroaki was pressured to relapse and fought with everyone, which broke his sanity and tested his fears. Shigeki tried to remain helpful, but he cannot look past the deaths he thinks he has caused. Tamba loses her strong will, and chapter 5 tests her confidence with fears she uses to hurt the cast. Mai fights for everyone and has to overtake the roles of those who died before her, and Hasegawa has lost everything, learned the truth of the game, and can be one of the few people left to crack and reveal everything tormenting him. All these characters also have secrets that impact one another, making a star of perfect unison. Now I know you all are probably typing out your anger in the comments about excluding Ojima and Wada, but allow me to explain myself. The reason I excluded Wada is the same reason he brings up himself.
Isuno should have been here. Manami should have been here.
He clings to past deaths that at this time have become irrelevant. He doesn't improve his character despite all the pressure morals characters like Suno and Shigeki encourage. And I'm sorry to say, a design change is not character development. Hey y'all, so this is me during my second phase of editing this video, and I want to clarify that this issue has actually been resolved. Yeah, they killed Wada. I think this was a really good decision. All the points I made about anything he did becoming irrelevant over time has been resolved by killing him. It shows that he was still affected by all those issues and was willing to hurt himself through the pain. In fact, I think this is the first time we've seen this trope of killing a character outside of a killing game done successfully. So, yeah, I'm really amazed by this. Good job, Tetro. Finally, Ojima. Going back to the exit interviews, this one is also self-explanatory.
Seems to be one of the only surviving participants that didn't lose anyone particularly close to you. Would you say that's correct?
No, I wouldn't.
But he's right, Takeshi. He is right. Ojima is strong in a lot of aspects, and he took a huge spotlight in the early chapters for its dissociation and relatable nature. But similar to Wada, he loses those who gave him a close relevancy. While Hiroaki is still around, the relationship fractures by the end. In chapter 5, Ojima's role was so ridiculous it ruined his character for me. I understand why he lived, because he was supposed to be the one to spread the word of those who died, and killing a character like that would have been extremely impactful and gave the final send-off to the cast I wish to survive. For me, the worst part is that I understand where the team is coming from with the surviving group. I just don't support it. In fact, how did we get here? How did we end up losing two of the most impactful characters that helped make up this perfect outcome? I mean, it's not like some stupid outside reason would have encouraged this fate.
Because I love you!
Right. I don't like Chapter 5. Let me start with the good. The returning motive is perfect, and is a great last hurdle to match up endless issues. Secondly, it is the best 7 to make it this far. Everyone can interact with everyone and create tension. Thirdly, this chapter is full of conflict. Hiroaki and Tamba's arguing is so entertaining, and seeing how it affects everyone is the chef's kiss. Constant death threats posed around the school are even better. I was absolutely certain that the scientists were interfering with the game because of the unique methods of screwing with the students. Everything that happens in this chapter keeps the audience engaged, but when you give a hook, you need to reel it in. When I watched this for the first time, I physically threw my headphones upon hearing Shigeki propose to Mai. Mai was a character highlighted the entire chapter as a savior. I really hated seeing her dead because she was one of the main focuses for my perfect survivor expectations, and her exclusion ruins that hope. But even then, you could make something decent with a replacement, as long as they never got rid of another member. Are you fucking kidding me? Hasegawa being the culprit ruined everything for me. I still don't understand what the team was thinking, because he had one of the biggest priorities to be a survivor. He broke the fucking fourth wall, and killing him doesn't repair it without explaining how he knew about the Season 2 cast. The only way this can be explained in the future is if the students in the lab find documents of the previous game that explains it away. Even then, it's a massive stretch, and while the execution was very entertaining, it's too common a trend to be unique. In short, I have a long love and hate relationship with Chapter 5. It breaks the Danganronpa trend, but not in the right way. If you want my honesty, I do still enjoy Who Live because I understand their purpose for doing so. And not just because my favorite character got to live. Nope. Not at all. I'm definitely am not going to give this cast a pass just because my one priority character managed to live. Okay. Yes, I am.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
There's a reason this Fangans community have collectively agreed this bitch is the protagonist, because he is the best bitch. Hiroaki is if the antagonist became the protagonist, and this concept is incredibly charming. Whenever he speaks, he yields so much emotion it always impacts those around him. He has no control of his opinions, and is willing to say anything on his mind, even his thankfulness for students being dead, a trait too many Danganronpa characters hide. He also has a perfect character arc. He starts despising everybody because he believes they take advantage over him. And for the entire game, he spends every last second fighting and yelling because he believes anyone can overtake him in a second. Some even do. He struggles to cling to anyone, casting blame on those who he believes want him dead. It's why he takes no remorse to anyone. But when he learns nobody exploited his one weakness, he becomes weak and a more physical threat. And it isn't until it is all over he can recover. But most importantly, he never loses his character. He always keeps the same traits that keep him enjoyable, while adapting. This is how you write a good character comprised of nothing but moral dilemmas, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, now that everyone understands why I appreciate his survival, let's get back on track. People enjoy Danganronpa for its complex murder cases. There are several aspects that go into a good murder, and Danganronpa push them all. The ideas throughout are so unique in nature that it compels the player to keep moving to solve this awkwardly arranged case. This forces the series to balance the trial with the daily lives. Despite this, they are commonly the ones that get the most views. It's natural for the Danganronpa audience to enjoy the murder cases because that is what gives the overarching mystery. It is the source that helps shape these trials and how they work. If not for them, you would not get the impact some cases provide. The daily lives anticipate the struggles to come, and can break current trends in the series to prepare for the worst. Well, as I said before, the cases in this series are lackluster. This is not a fault of the production, it's an intended choice. Being audio-based, its trials focus on the outcome and emotion of characters. This doesn't work all too well when the cases are very dumbed down to work for this quality. Regardless, it holds to what a trial is supposed to do. Then where does that leave the daily lives? Surely it was made for the bigger story. Wrong! Did I just counter myself? There is no advancing plot until chapters 4 and 5. Everything based outside of the school and reason for the killing game do not get much attention until those points. Even then, this is a series that doesn't focus on what happens outside of the killing game. You may hear of the scientists advancing their research, but the students never learn that. Well, if it isn't for a bigger story, then it's to set up these murder cases. Wrong again! Whose idea was this? In the original trilogy, there were events that encouraged murders to occur. Parties, to a magic show, to a freaking disease. Each of these motives always held the threat of imminent death high to keep the stakes, even when the bigger issues were at play. This series takes a trigger-happy havoc approach where nothing hits until it decides to. Unless you were in Chapter 3, and maybe Chapter 4, there is no setup. This also proves why the trials have so little impact, because the daily lives don't focus on setting up the trials. So if the daily lives are not for the bigger mystery, and it's not to encourage the trials, then we are left with pure character perspective and development. Whew. This series focuses on the characters, and I confess, it does that masterfully. The reason this series never strays from the smaller picture is because that is what we are meant to see. Watching characters interact in a realistic way to a scenario enhances the thrill it provides. It focuses on who will die next and how it can break the cast. And considering how close the Death Order was, it almost retained that. But having proven how it affected the later chapters and the failure to prepare the early ones, that leaves us in a broken position. How can a trial work if the series itself doesn't prepare for it? The impact a trial could have is lost when the daily lives focus on a set aspect. Being set on characters makes us lose interest in the several mysteries, only hoping for the fate of the characters, one which, as I brought up, was flimsy. This is why daily lives lose enjoyment, because they do not set up the bigger impact. And remember, this is what Tetro Danganronpa wants to be, and I won't encourage that to change. I can still enjoy the series because of how it is delivered. The character development and emotional core is so strong it blinds us to the bigger problems, and that is part of the reason why the series is accepted for being minimal. They overachieve in an aspect normal Danganronpa material does not. But when you look past the lens and view the bigger picture, it becomes clear that the series is missing very important details. This is a problem I expect to see fixed with Blue, because the characters are in a laboratory belonging to the scientists and can hold much more information about the bigger plot. And I am prepared to hell and back to see them pull it off. Before we move on, I do want to address that there is one loose tie that connects the in-game killing game to the bigger experiment going on outside. That thread is a character I have neglected to talk about, but is the thing that makes this minimal concept ultimately work.
But if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
One of the biggest selling points of a Danganronpa series is its mascot. Each one makes the series identifiable in its own right. While Monomoko isn't memorable in design, she is one of those characters who you can hear once and never forget. And this puts her on the podium of best mascots. I'm sorry, Monosika and Nara. I held onto you as long as I could, but being unfinished can't keep you at the top. I'm sorry. Anyways, her tone never changes no matter the struggle. Rather, her personality changes to reflect her interest in assisting students instead of hurting them. And this is encouraged with her ever-shifting texture throughout the videos. She intervenes when the story needs her most, not to always encourage the students, but to be the perfect moral balance between sides. Despite that, she manages to control the game by her fingertips, something a majority of mascots nowadays, including Monokuma, let slip. She is incredibly grounded while showing her immense power. Her storyline between the game is very entertaining because it shows she is on the same level as the students, and wants to escape the scientists just as much. And that is what helps her crack and share the cast's intentions. Having your main mascot sympathize yet continue to torment the cast felt impossible. Sure, you could do something like Bizarro-san and Kokoro-Star's split personality, but combining those aspects into one complete character is a huge challenge, and this series did it wonderfully. It almost makes me feel bad for killing her in the thumbnail. But speaking of her diversion from other Fangans, she isn't the only thing in this series that strays away from the formula. In fact, I mentioned at the start of this video, other Fangans are often split. While some diverge from the Danganronpa formula to make unique concepts, others struggle to keep that balance and end up resorting to old context. How does Tetro Pink fare against these other Fangans? Well, to conclude my analysis, let's take a look. In this video, I have made several references to existing ideas from other Fangans. Do you all recall me mentioning this line? Many Fangans use the main formula from the trilogy because of how effective it is. But when you make a Fangan, people want twists, creative ideas, and an unexpected death order. You may take it as an exaggeration, but several Fangans I hold high respect for follow this trend. Before we analyze all these common trends, we must understand why so many people follow the trilogy's formula. To put it bluntly, it's simplistic, impactful, and repetitive. The first game designs its order to be impactful at all times. Losing your best friend leads to a desperation to find who killed them, then slowly picking off the faces that come to grow more stronger as the chapters progress, until you are left with a cast quite divergent. They copied this trend in the adjacent games, almost identically. Vital character deaths, emotional drama, double murders, unique twists, and explosive conclusions. When a trend works well, it is common for someone to incorporate it into the next installment. Heck, improve it. That is what happens with the main trilogy, and is why the trends always remain the same between games. Sometimes they improve, sometimes they decline, but there is no denying its effectiveness. And as a Fangan creator, you want to harvest that excitement. It can be hard to notice trends as a common viewer, but take the time to compare your favorite Fangan storyline and death order to the main trilogy. The examples I show on screen now are what come to mind for me, and I know there are several others that copy this trend. In fact, the main trilogy isn't the only one who follow this, as I am a victim of this act myself. The whole reason for the death order and plot of Killing Server was to take what worked in my preceding series and improve it. It didn't work out, and now it is easily the worst series of my 4. Speaking of that, let me take you into the mind of creators such as myself. As I said earlier in this video, Fangan creators often only make one series, and because they only strive for a single chance, they go to lengths to copy perfection. At the time I started Danganronpa, I thought the same thing and replicated my formula similar to the trilogy. Despite using preloaded characters, I was able to familiarize enough aspects of characters to bring the same impact. It wasn't perfect, but it did what a series should. So well, I tried doing it a second time and I've already gone over that travesty. Some Fangan creators who take their second chance end up doing worse, but there are exceptions who do better, and those who do often twist up the nature of the formula. You see, if you can escape familiarity, you can break the Danganronpa formula and mold it into something unique. It is part of why I closed myself off from other Fangans, so I could escape the trend everyone uses and find perfection. Soon enough, you would find me animating my own BDAs, creating multiple double murders, making massive cast work, building unique storylines, and make something entertaining. Even then, many smaller Fangans continue to break trends for unique ideas that spread and inspire others. This includes some aspects of Tetro Danganronpa. In fact, me and Tetro Danganronpa have more in common than I let on. Do y'all remember my most popular series, Murderous Mayhem? When I was building that series story, I wanted to have everyone equally share a perspective. My friends shut down the idea for how it could ruin the greater story, and I'm glad I listened. I was able to focus on the story with ambiguity, but I was able to keep the original idea of equal characters by switching the protagonist in Chapter 4! Try and make that work, other Fangans! Ha! Even if I couldn't master the idea, Tetro Danganronpa Pink ran with it and made a masterpiece. Even if it still holds dear to its predecessor, it is the reason why I made this video. By holding onto the formula of the main trilogy, Fangan's familiarity ruins the series. The deaths become obvious, and when the trend happens throughout the entire story, it becomes hard to properly break free from it during the last chapter. But with how common it is, I can't blame Tetro for plastering itself as it did. It wanted to cement its place as an iconic Fangan, and the reception for its quality and condition helps show that even the bad parts have a hint of hope. This is why I hold so much faith in Tetro Blue. The creators taking a second shot at the concept of what Danganronpa should be holds a lot of hope, despair, and the potential to achieve. With this video, and the many strives they experience trying to be something familiar, it needs to embrace that the best way to show its true potential is to break the formula and become its own thing. And maybe they can prove to the community it is much more than an audio-based series. It is a perfect concept, and made to become inspirational to many more Fangans to come. Will they take the stand to break free from the formula, become unpredictable, deliver a strong ending, and reshape the thrill of storytelling? We can only wait and see. Hey y'all, I had a script for this outro, but I'm gonna toss that aside and just speak honestly. Thank you all for sticking around to the end of this video. I needed some way to fill the gap in my YouTube channel. I'm taking a break right now to plan out some bigger series and move on with life. and that's kind of been a big bundle I've been trying to figure out, so I appreciate everyone taking the time and accepting this video as a good replacement. I don't know if I'll make another video of this quality. Maybe I'll review another Fangan, but highly not. This video absolutely took lots of energy out of me, especially because I was using a very crappy editing software. Regardless, I'm glad everyone stuck around and saw it to the end. I think there's only one thing I need to say to close out this video. The Surgeon and the Pizza Chef better live. Their ultimates never live in any Danganronpa series. Please, please, please.